What happens when the kingmaker becomes the hunted? In the unfolding chaos, Paul Heyman, the man who built the bloodline from a volatile group of relatives into WWE's most dominant dynasty, now finds himself looking over his shoulder. Whispers backstage suggest that Heyman knew more than he let on. Some believe he saw the fracture coming and tried to control it. Others think he provoked it. But whatever the truth, the calculated architect of the bloodline is now the centerpiece of a brewing storm. Sources inside WWE reveal that Heyman has tightened his circle. He's requested additional security. Meetings once held in the open are now conducted behind locked doors. And perhaps most telling, he's begun deleting scheduled media appearances. This is not the behavior of a man in control. This is the behavior of a man who knows a reckoning is coming. The tension surrounding Heyman hit its peak 2 nights ago, during a closed-door talent meeting. Triple H had called the roster together to address the state of SmackDown following the attack on Solo and Braun. But it was Heyman's arrival that turned heads. No entrance music. No swagger. Just silence. And a visible limp. As he took a seat in the back row, not the front, every eye turned to him. Some with confusion. Others with suspicion. According to an insider in the room, it felt like a funeral. Everyone was quiet. Like they were waiting for someone to say what we were all thinking, this was Paul's fault. And maybe it is. For years, Heyman thrived on control, psychological, emotional, political. He played brothers against brothers, cousins against cousins, all while shielding Roman Reigns from the fallout. But now, with Roman missing and Solo brutalized, Heyman has no shield left. And the chaos he once manipulated is now spiraling beyond even his grasp. Fatu and Tama Tonga have yet to release a statement. No cryptic tweets. No promo packages. Just silence. But silence in this context isn't absence, it's power. Their last act said everything. They're done talking. They're taking. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa remains in recovery. Medical reports suggest he suffered fractured ribs, internal bruising, and possible ligament damage in his left shoulder. A once untouchable enforcer now lies vulnerable, isolated, and seething. Those closest to Solo describe a man consumed by rage. He hasn't spoken publicly, but in a moment captured off camera, he reportedly looked into a backstage mirror and muttered, "They made a mistake." WWE officials are reportedly working to capitalize on that rage. Whispers of an unsanctioned match are spreading like wildfire, one that bypasses creative and hands control to the competitors themselves. Jacob and Tama have yet to respond, but insiders say it's only a matter of time. Because for warriors like them, this was never about titles or merch or crowd pops. This is about legacy, and that's what makes this so dangerous. The bloodline was never just a faction. It was a blood oath. A brotherhood. A dynasty. And when Roman Reigns formed it, he did so with the understanding that family comes before everything. But in his absence, that code has fractured. Solo believes he's the rightful heir. Jacob believes he was robbed. Tama believes he was forgotten. And Paul Heyman? He believes he can still hold it all together, even as it burns around him. But not everyone agrees. A shocking development emerged earlier today when a WWE staffer leaked a confidential travel itinerary showing that Roman Reigns is scheduled to be in Orlando next week, a location that coincides with Monday Night Raw's taping. If true, this would mark the first time Roman has returned to WWE television since his sudden disappearance months ago. Is he coming back to reclaim control? Or is he walking into the middle of a war too far gone to contain? Fans are desperate for answers. And WWE is feeding the frenzy. Cryptic vignettes began airing last night, black and white clips of Roman's past triumphs overlaid with the phrase "fall of an empire," or "the rise of a new one." Social media erupted. Could Roman be returning to pick a side? Or is he planning to dismantle the bloodline altogether? Meanwhile, new alliances are being whispered into existence. Names like Zilla Fatu, Hikuleo, and even the estranged Jimmy USO are circling the rumor mill. If Jacob and Tama are building something, a new empire, then they'll need more soldiers. And if Solo wants revenge, he can't go it alone, and that's the terrifying part. This is just beginning. Sources now say internal security at WWE headquarters has been instructed to prepare for unpredictable faction activity. Staff are being warned not to intervene if future backstage incidents escalate. "We're letting it play out," said one executive, who spoke under condition of anonymity. "This is the new reality. Let the blood decide the hierarchy. It's unprecedented. It's unscripted. It's war.as for Paul Heyman. He's reportedly in talks to address the WWE Universe directly next Friday. Whether that's a strategic move or a desperate one remains to be seen. But many believe it may be his last appearance as the so-called wise man. Because in this new world, wisdom isn't protection. It's a liability. Jacob Fatu has sent his message through action. Tama Tonga has chosen his side with violence. And Solo Sikoa? He's licking his wounds, sharpening his blade. The tribal war is no longer looming. It's here, and when Roman Reigns finally steps back into the arena, he won't be returning as a king. He'll be returning to a battlefield, with no throne left to sit on. The moment Roman Reigns walks through that curtain again, everything, and everyone, will be watching. But it won't be the return of a hero. It won't even be the return of a ruler. This time, it will be the return of a father figure to a fractured family, a general to a divided army, a legend walking into a kingdom on fire. The last time we saw Roman Reigns, his presence alone was enough to silence the locker room. His mere existence brought order, fear, and respect. But now, with the bloodline imploding from within, Roman no longer returns to admiration. He returns to chaos, where lines have been drawn, loyalties betrayed, and two of his fiercest warriors have turned their backs on the very legacy he built with his own blood. And Roman has no allies left. Solo Sikoa, once his enforcer, is now broken, both physically and psychologically. The attack by Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga wasn't just brutal, it was humiliating. It shattered the aura Solo had built since stepping into his cousin's shoes. It proved that raw power alone isn't enough to lead this family. And now, as he recovers, Solo is faced with the reality that he may not be feared anymore, he may be hunted. But Solo isn't done. Far from it. WWE insiders have revealed that Solo Sikoa has demanded clearance to return, despite doctors recommending a 6-week recovery window. He reportedly tore off his own bandages during a heated meeting with trainers and snarled, "I don't care. I'm not finished." His request has sparked internal debates about liability and safety, but for Solo, there's no turning back. This isn't about a title match. This is about revenge, and that revenge has a name: Jacob Fatu. Jacob, the Samoan werewolf, the chaos engine, the man who said nothing and let violence speak for him, has now become the most feared entity in the company. He doesn't cut promos. He doesn't explain himself. He strikes. Then vanishes. And what makes him so dangerous isn't just his power. It's his conviction. Jacob believes that Solo stole the throne. That he was always meant to carry the bloodline forward. That Roman picked the wrong warrior. And now, with Tama Tonga at his side, Jacob Fatu has created a new front, one that doesn't ask for permission or forgiveness. Tama isn't just along for the ride. He's the strategist. The fuse. The storm hiding behind Jacob's fire. And together, they're not looking to replace the bloodline. They're looking to bury it. In their eyes, this isn't betrayal. This is resurrection. A return to the roots, to what the family stood for before titles and suits and endorsements got in the way. In the silence that followed their attack, a strange kind of clarity has begun to take shape. What if Jacob and Tama aren't the villains? What if they're the reset? But not everyone sees it that way. Backstage at Raw, a new resistance is starting to form. Braun Breaker, now medically cleared, has been rallying allies of his own. According to whispers from the Performance Center, Breaker's been holding private sparring sessions with Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes. Men who've clashed with Solo before and may have their own grudges. The seeds of a new faction, one not tied to blood but to vengeance, may be growing. The bloodline isn't just splintering. It's replicating. fragmenting into factions, ideologies, tribes within tribes. And in the middle of it all, Paul Heyman is reportedly isolated. His once unshakable hold on the locker room has crumbled. Superstars are avoiding him. Producers are second-guessing his pitches. Rumor has it he was pulled from creative meetings this week, a sign that even the top brass are reconsidering his influence in this escalating war. Yet he remains a central figure, because no matter how far the bloodline fractures, he was there from the beginning. He knows every secret, every weakness, every regret, and it's that knowledge that might save him or destroy him. Insiders say Heyman is planning one final move, a last-ditch effort to realign the family before Roman's rumored return. He's reached out to Rikishi. He's reached out to Ava Raine. And, perhaps most shocking, he's even reached out to Jey Uso, who has been silent since walking out of WWE months ago. Heyman's reportedly asking for unity. But those he's contacted are questioning whether it's real unity he wants, or just control. Back at WWE HQ, marketing teams are being told to prepare for a massive Bloodline reckoning campaign. Trademark filings for phrases like tribal collapse and legacy war were submitted just days after the backstage attack. The company is gearing up for a full-scale civil war narrative, one they didn't plan, but one they now must survive. And that brings us to Roman Reigns, a man who once ruled with absolute dominance. A man who called himself the head of the table and made the entire WWE universe bow. But when he returns, he may not be met with bows. He may be met with fire. The question remains, what will Roman do? Will he side with Solo, the cousin who stayed loyal, only to be dismantled under his watch? Will he reach out to Jacob, the cousin he never trusted, but who now leads the future by force, or will he burn it all down? Some believe Roman's return will mark the end of the bloodline. That he will walk into the ring, look each man in the eye, and say, "None of you deserve the crown." Others believe he'll pick one, elevate him, and spark a second wave of war. But there's a darker theory circulating in hushed tones, that Roman Reigns may not return to unite anyone. That Roman may come back for revenge. Not just on Solo, or Jacob, or Tama, but on Paul Heyman, because if this war started anywhere, it started with the man who whispered in his ear. For years, Paul Heyman managed egos, bent truths, and played chess with the souls of this family. But in doing so, he lit a fire under men who were born to burn everything down. And now, that fire has consumed everything Roman built. So when the tribal chief returns, what's left? The WWE Universe waits with bated breath. Will next week's Raw or SmackDown bring answers, or more destruction? Will the locker room finally split into full-blown civil war? Will new names enter the fold, Zilla, Fatu, Hikuleo, even Naomi, or will the entire Anoa'i family be forced into the spotlight, forced to pick sides in a war that no longer respects blood? And as we stand on the edge of the most chaotic moment in WWE history, only one thing is certain: this is no longer about championships, this is no longer about legacy, this is no longer about Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, or even the Usos. This is about survival, because the bloodline is not a family anymore. It's a battlefield, and the war has only just begun. As the fires of war rage hotter, the backstage air inside WWE feels thick with suspicion. It's no longer just a storyline, it's a pressure cooker. Every glance between superstars feels like a test of loyalty. Every hallway feels like a battlefield in waiting. Cameras may be rolling for entertainment, but the tension is real, and the players involved? They're no longer just performers. They're ticking time bombs. Roman Reigns' anticipated return has already sent shockwaves through the locker room, even though he hasn't yet appeared in person. His presence looms large over every whispered conversation, every panicked call from Paul Heyman, every cryptic post from Jacob Fatu. Roman may be absent, but his name is the one everybody is still afraid to say too loudly, because when he walks back through that curtain, he's not coming back to restore peace. He's coming back to judge. Meanwhile, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga have gone radio silent again. No updates. No backstage sightings. Not even on the internal talent travel logs. WWE security was reportedly dispatched to scan for their presence at the Raw arena, expecting a surprise strike. But nothing came. That silence, however, is what's disturbing everyone the most. Because when men like Jacob and Tama stop making noise, it usually means they're preparing something louder than words. Sources close to the situation claim the two are assembling something, or someone. The term "the new bloodline" has been tossed around internally by production crews, and it's begun appearing on fan-made signs and social media threads. But those in the know say this is no accident. There's talk of a new faction, one that will be built entirely outside of Roman's legacy, a coalition of castaways, rebels, and exiles who believe that the throne doesn't belong to the one who held it the longest, but to the ones willing to burn for it. Zilla Fatu is rumored to be joining them. The son of Umaga. A name that carries violent history and deep roots. And if Zilla aligns himself with Jacob and Tama, then this new bloodline isn't just a threat. It becomes an all-out rebellion, fueled by names Roman never gave a seat at the table. But just as quickly as alliances are being forged, old scars are reopening. Jimmy USO, long silent since Solo's rise to dominance, is back in the mix. One source confirmed that Jimmy was spotted arriving at the performance center under heavy discretion, no camera crew, no announcement, just a quiet return through the back entrance. And he wasn't alone. A member of WWE security, who requested anonymity, claims Jimmy met privately with Triple H and later received a phone call directly from Roman Reigns. Was it reconciliation? A warning? Or a recruitment? All we know is that Jimmy USO has history with every player in this war. He was the first to bleed for Roman. The first to stand against him. The first to be exiled. And now, as the war reignites, he may become the wild card nobody saw coming. But Jimmy isn't the only ghost returning. JUSO, perhaps the most emotionally tormented member of the family, has remained off-screen, silent, and unspoken since his dramatic walkout. WWE insiders claim that for months, creative didn't even factor him into future Bloodline plans. But that's changed. Word has it that Jay is now being approached by both sides, Heyman trying to restore unity, Jacob trying to rewrite history. Jay, however, hasn't said a word. Not to either of them. But he's been watching. He's always been watching, because Jay knows better than anyone what happens when family becomes war. He was the first to experience Roman's manipulation, the first to break under the weight of the tribal chief's expectations, and the first to realize that love inside this dynasty always comes with a price. So now the question becomes, when, not if, Jey Uso returns, which side will he be on? In the midst of all this uncertainty, Paul Heyman is unraveling. For the first time in his career, the wise man has no one listening. Roman is gone. Solo is recovering. Jacob and Tama want his head. The Usos are ghosts. And the rest of the locker room sees him not as a genius, but as the matchstick that lit the inferno. Those closest to Heyman say he's working around the clock. Not on damage control, but on escape plans. There are whispers that Heyman is considering a public statement, an emotional breakdown in the ring, or even a sacrifice moment, where he throws himself at Roman's feet in an attempt to beg for forgiveness and absolution. But would it even work? Because here's the cruel irony of the Bloodline's rise. The man who orchestrated it from behind the curtain is now the most disposable piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, the board of directors is growing nervous. What began as a faction storyline has evolved into an uncontrollable monster. Merch sales are up. Ratings are sky high. But the company knows it's riding the edge of chaos. They've tried to contain it. Script it. Package it. But Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga don't play by rules. And the deeper the storyline goes, the closer it gets to turning into something unscripted, something real. And maybe, that's the point, because the WWE Universe isn't cheering for a clean resolution. They're not looking for the old bloodline to patch things up and hold hands again. No, they want the war. They want betrayals. They want to watch the family implode. Because nothing captivates like destruction. And there's no greater tragedy than a family tearing itself apart on live television. Every episode now feels like a countdown. To what? No one knows. Roman's return, Jacob's next attack, Solo's revenge, or the final moment when everything burns, when the Bloodline name, once sacred, is reduced to ash. in a leaked creative memo, one phrase was underlined 3 times at the top of the page: "No one walks out clean." And maybe that's the truth, because no matter who wins this war, whether it's Roman reclaiming his throne, Solo reasserting control, or Jacob and Tama rewriting the dynasty, one thing is already guaranteed: the bloodline, as we knew it, is dead. This is something new, something darker, something unrelenting, and as WWE prepares for its most volatile year yet, only one thing is certain: no title, no legacy, no man is safe anymore. This is no longer about the head of the table. This is about flipping the table over, and watching who survives the wreckage. And now, the final chapter is looming. What began as a power struggle has become a generational war, a blood-stained battlefield stretching across decades of WWE history, littered with the bodies of loyalty, trust, and legacy. The Bloodline was never just a faction. It was a declaration that blood ruled, and anyone who stood against it would fall. But that ideology is crumbling. The foundation Roman Reigns built, with Heyman's whispers and the Usos' sacrifice, is now being challenged by the very men it ignored. Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Zilla Fatu. These are not rebels. These are heirs. And they are not asking for recognition. They are taking it. In the last 48 hours, WWE has gone into what sources are calling internal lockdown. A private meeting between WWE President Nick Khan, Triple H, and senior executives was held behind closed doors. On the agenda, the future of the Bloodline storyline, and the safety of everyone involved. You heard that right, safety. Because what's happening now isn't just compelling television. It's unpredictable. It's unscripted. And the superstars involved are blurring the line between performance and personal vendetta. Paul Heyman, once the puppet master, security is now under 24-hour surveillance, not for his protection, but to make sure he doesn't detonate anything before Roman returns. Speaking of which, new footage has surfaced. Security camera stills, leaked, of course, showing Roman Reigns arriving at a private hangar in Tampa. Dressed in black. No entourage. No smile. Just silence. Witnesses say he walked straight from the SUV to a waiting jet, nodded once to a WWE agent, and disappeared into the night. Destination unknown. But there's one belief growing stronger backstage: Roman is about to make his return not as the head of the table, but as the executioner, because he's not coming back to reclaim control. He's coming back to punish everyone who destroyed what he built. Sources say he's furious with Solo for losing grip, livid with Jacob and Tama for their insubordination, and perhaps most of all, done with Heyman. Roman's trust was currency. And it was spent. One insider said, Roman Reigns is coming back to bury someone. We just don't know who yet. And that uncertainty has triggered panic among the roster. Superstars not involved in the Bloodline saga are asking to be moved to different storylines. Some want to be reassigned to Raw. Others are pulling out of future SmackDown tapings. Not because of fear of injury, but fear of getting caught in the blast radius of what's coming. In the meantime, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga are only growing stronger. Last night, during a live event in Houston, the lights cut out mid-show. When they returned, a banner dropped from the rafters, a Bloodline crest, slashed down the center, with the words, "We never needed you," painted in red. It wasn't sanctioned. It wasn't part of the show. And no one has claimed responsibility, but fans knew. And they exploded online. The hashtag New Bloodline movement has gone viral. Fans are now choosing sides in droves, some clinging to the original dynasty Roman Reigns forged, others chanting for revolution with Jacob and Tama at the helm. T-shirts, signs, even tattoos are appearing. Tribal uprising, Fatu's era, Tama rules. This isn't just a storyline anymore. It's a movement, and if WWE doesn't harness it, it might consume them internally. Triple H has reportedly greenlit a controversial idea, a live, unsanctioned summit on SmackDown. All factions. All members. One ring. No moderators. No microphones. Just presence. It's being billed privately as The Reckoning. But no official announcement has been made. Not yet. Because no one knows if Roman Reigns will show up, and everyone knows, if he does, someone's getting hurt. Roman is a strategist. A punisher. A man who doesn't speak unless every word is laced with dominance. But this time, he's not coming back with strategy. He's coming back for retribution. He gave the Bloodline everything. A dynasty. A legacy. And in return, they gave him betrayal, and maybe, that's the most painful part of all, not the physical destruction, not the ratings wars, but the realization that everything he fought for, every battle, every promo, every steel chair to the back, was for a family that never stayed loyal. So when Roman Reigns returns, the tribal chief may not walk through that curtain. He may walk through as something far more terrifying. A lone wolf with nothing to lose, and that, in the world of WWE, is the most dangerous man alive. So here we are, at the edge of history. Solo Sikoa, bruised, bitter, desperate for redemption. Jacob Fatu, a monster with a mission and the will to watch the empire fall. Tama Tonga, the sword that cuts through lies with every super kick. Paul Heyman, a man surrounded by enemies, holding no cards, and praying for forgiveness. And Roman Reigns, the storm no one can predict. The Bloodline isn't about family anymore. It's about power. It's about survival. And when that final confrontation comes, when the lights dim, the crowd rises, and the music hits, it won't be about who sits at the table anymore. It'll be about who walks out of the war still breathing. The echoes of war don't fade quietly in WWE. They ricochet, and now, as the dust settles, or pretends to, one thing becomes chillingly clear: this isn't over. Not even close. Because in a world built on blood and betrayal, scars don't heal. They harden. And grudges don't die. They evolve. In the aftermath of the Bloodline's implosion, the entire WWE universe is holding its breath, waiting for what feels like an inevitable explosion. But the pieces are moving fast, and none of them are predictable anymore. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga have gone from pariahs to revolutionaries. Their ambush wasn't just rebellion, it was strategic. They picked their moment. They shattered the power dynamic. And now, they're building something terrifying, a new kingdom with no rules and no respect for the legacy that came before them. Reports from inside WWE's Performance Center suggest that Jacob and Tama are recruiting. Quietly. Aggressively. They're not just looking for followers. They're looking for believers, people who want to see the old regime fall. And according to one anonymous coach, they're getting them. The locker room isn't what it used to be. People are tired. Tired of being pawns in Roman's empire. Even more shocking? They're not limiting themselves to men. Whispers are growing louder that the new movement may involve a female enforcer, someone just as deadly, just as connected to the family, and just as overlooked. Could it be Naomi? Could it be Ava Raine? Could the new Bloodline, this tribal uprising, become the most dangerous co-ed faction in WWE history? And yet, amidst this chaos, there's one voice we haven't heard. Roman Reigns. No tweet, no promo, no return, just that lingering image of him boarding a private jet. It's driving the WWE universe mad. Social media has turned into a fever dream of speculation. Is Roman watching? Is he planning something bigger? Is he simply waiting for everyone to turn on each other before he delivers the final blow? But Roman's silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. He's always been the chess player. While others punch and shout and bleed, he watches. Calculates. And when he strikes, it's with finality. Sources close to Roman say that when he returns, it won't be to pick sides. It'll be to finish it. The betrayals. The mutiny. The chaos. All of it. He doesn't want a piece of the empire back. He wants it all, even if it means burning down what's left. And what of Solo Sikoa? The man who was supposed to inherit the crown. Those close to him say he's not speaking to anyone. No texts. No calls. No contact. He's training in silence, working with MMA coaches, sparring behind closed doors. One insider simply said, he's becoming something else. Is Solo preparing to challenge Jacob head-on? Or is he preparing for something more twisted, like finishing what he believes Roman failed to? Because make no mistake, Solo isn't done. He's wounded. But he's alive. And in war, a wounded dog is often the most dangerous. Meanwhile, WWE Creative is tearing up scripts faster than they can print them. Everything is in flux. Matches are being rebooked. Partnerships are dissolving. Superstars are demanding clarity. But there is none, because clarity doesn't exist in a civil war, only survival does. And Paul Heyman? He's vanishing. Rumors say he hasn't shown up to meetings. That he's in seclusion. That he's trying to broker a deal to keep himself from becoming collateral damage when Roman returns. Some believe he's trying to write one last speech. Others think he's preparing to disappear altogether. But everyone agrees on one thing: Paul Heyman is no longer the puppet master, he's the loose end, and in this new version of the Bloodline, loose ends get cut. In the ring, the energy has shifted. Every handshake feels suspicious. Every stare down feels personal.